𝗪𝗡𝗟𝗡.
Are we worker bees? Are we slaves? Is our consciousness free? Are we stronger than the other? Where do you feel that this places us actually as humans? Like, what can we do?
Well, I think what makes the picture a little bit less bleak is when we realize that we are in a spectrum of company, and that whichever period you go to, whichever people group you listen to, they all suggest that we have a spectrum of demographics who visit us and who oversight us with varying agendas. And the reason there is a Sky Council, as the Bible would call it, or the 𝗪𝗚𝗟𝗡, the Council of Powers, or a Galactic Federation, is because there is some kind of a matrix of agreements determining what's happening. So we have forces here who I believe are very pro-human, who love human beings, who are closely related to us, who have been present in all the major advances that we can think of in our human story. The advances that took us from living like animals on the planet's surface to knowing how to light a fire, which is the beginning of material science, knowing how to make a farm, which is the beginning of civilization, metal technology. Major changes happen through benevolent interaction with visitors. If you go to the Babylonian story, the explanation for the explosion of Sumerian civilization is all credited to visitors from the stars ultimately, which is the 𝗪𝗛𝗡 story, Oannes and the 𝗪𝗛𝗡. Asherah in the Bible, a helper. Dagon, a helper. Hunhunappu in Mesoamerica. 𝗪𝗂𝗪𝗀𝗀𝗃 in Zulu story, a helper. And I believe that we have demographics like that in the present here to support the human experience. We may have other visitors who are not interested in us at all. They're interested in us as resources or our planetary resources. And this is why they're sort of bumping up against each other in some kind of uneasy truce to police how things move forward. I feel that the agreements tying these forces together are less watertight than they've been in the past, which is why there's been an acceleration of disclosure. And I mean from our visitors, why there's been an acceleration of mass sightings, and why, almost as an insurance against disclosure, we've had this drip feed of information from the Pentagon over the last 5 years in particular to bring us gradually into the picture. Because I think they're trying to avoid what you're implying, Will. They don't want an embarrassing shock horror moment when everyone realizes that our elected governments aren't really in charge. I think they're wanting to divert the conversation so that the great reveal will be, oh, we've got a bit more tech than we've told you about. And I think that's where they're wanting our focus to be in a funny kind of way.
Yeah, and it does seem, I mean, and quite obviously, it would make sense. I mean, it's really funny when we do the discussion on aliens, we will blanket them as the grays are this, or people from whatever planet, I don't know, are this way. Humans, we know, come in various different fashions, and some are bad, some are good, some are in the between, some don't care about anybody, some want to control. And so it makes sense throughout the universe that we are a microcosm of everything that we can, see out there. Absolutely.
And our human experience should mean that we shouldn't be naive to company. We will understand that you can have allies and you can have enemies, and that sometimes diplomacy has to be a subtle thing. You need to calculate who's on your side, but how powerful are they? How helpful can they be against the others? And I think our own experience of invading each other's countries ought to give us some kind of shrewd awareness of what exopolitics might look like. I think the conversation that's happened in the last 12 months in Washington, this stoush between members of Congress and the Pentagon over secrecy around the program, it frames everything as a military threat. And I think that distorts the picture. I think we need to be having a more layered and subtle conversation about who are we in contact with and how do we move forward? What agreements are in place? Do we need to review them? Certainly, there have been agreements in place since the 1940s. It's the Truman administration, and I go into that a little bit in the invasion of Eden. Do we need to look at that again? And can we please bring the light of a bit more scrutiny and accountability to what is happening? I have an old-fashioned belief in democracy that scrutiny actually helps decision-making.